Hi, welcome to ThinkTech. We are raising public awareness about energy, technology, diversity, and globalization. I'm Donna Blanchard, your host of Center Stage and a very proud managing director of Covello Bay Theater. We are coming to you live from Pioneer Plaza in the heart of downtown Honolulu, very near Covello Bay Theater. I have the pleasure today of talking with Dave Rosen, who is the director of the film The Fishing Club, which will premiere at HIFF next week. But first, before we get to Dave, I want to tell you a few things. We stream live every day on Ustream TV and Spreaker.com. We run shows from 1 o'clock to 5 p.m. every weekday. All of our shows are archived on YouTube and on ThinkTechHawaii.com, so you can visit us there. And anytime you'd like to join us in our downtown studio audience, please email j@thinktechhawaii.com. Now, let me get to our guest. Dave Rosen started his career by making short films, winning the grand prize in the Northwest International Short Film Festival in 1980. He's known for his visual storytelling style, and he's helped create successful marketing campaigns and garnered numerous local and national awards. He's the owner of Shooter's Film Production in Honolulu, where he directs commercials and documentaries, and was recognized in 2010 as Hawaii's Advertising Man of the Year. With the Fishing Club, he is back to his first love, working with actors to tell a great story. Thank you so much for being here, Dave.
Well, thank you for that great introduction.
Absolutely. I didn't write that myself, you know.
Oh, really?
You have wonderful people. So I got to see it actually premieres at HIFF.
That's correct.
I got to see the cast and crew premiere a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, we wanted to give everybody a chance. Everybody worked on it so hard and put a lot more effort into it than they do for, you know, the typical projects we get to work on. And I wanted to give everybody a chance to see it before it goes public.
Oh yeah, that was really nice. That was really nice. It is an exciting film. It's an exciting project. It's all homegrown.
That's absolutely true. It was written here by Kathy Tarleton from the Big Island in the 90s, really. Came to our attention when it won a Honolulu Magazine short story contest around then.
Oh.
So our producer, Dana Hankins, saw it there, and she wanted it to be part of a series that she was doing on Hawaii called Trade Winds. Short stories, you know, about people in Hawaii, some with a somewhat spiritual but light feel to them. And the Fishing Club was one of the 4 projects that she chose to be part of Trade Winds.
Okay.
So she approached me and showed me the story. She approached, you know, 4 different directors she wanted to work with. And as soon as I saw the various scripts, I knew I wanted to work on Fishing Club as the most dramatic, the best scripts, I thought, best characters, really hard to produce.
Oh, but all of the good outweighed the bad?
All of the good outweighed the bad. So it didn't get done back then when the others got done. There were just too many production difficulties. But it was always there, and finally we decided to go for it.
What was it that made it hard to produce?
You know, if you're going to do a short story, if you're going to write a short story, you can do anything with any number of characters, any number of locations. If you're going to film a short story, typical film short stories have a few characters and a few locations and work the drama that way, or the comedy, or whatever. This is a large ensemble cast, you know, with a lot of extras, with a lot of locations, and it really should be neighbor islands. It's set for neighbor islands, although the themes work everywhere, including Oahu, including, you know, places not even in Hawaii, all over the world, really. But, and there are other things, being neighbor island, you know, set, there were things that were very hard to find on Oahu, like there's a major scene set, or there's a major plot point around an old Hawaiian rock wall. Now, when you go to the neighbor islands, you see those everywhere, right? You see them from the side of the road. You know, upcountry Maui, Big Island, out in Kauai. You do not see them in Oahu. They're very hard to find.
Right. Where did you find one?
We actually found one at Covello Ranch. Most people didn't know about them. One of the brothers, David Morgan, knew one that was a dividing line that came down from one of the ridge lines between Covello and Hakipuku.
Oh.
So we shot the main night scene there. We had to do a few pickup shots after the film was done, a couple of close-ups, and there was another small section of one out in Waialua Ranch, and we did the pickup shots there.
Oh, okay. Would you like to set up the clip? Let's go ahead and show the clip and then talk more about the background of the film.
Sure. So the clip is basically, it gives you a summary of what's going to happen in the film without really giving everything away. And what you'll see is it's a situation that you see so often. It's a situation of development and bringing in jobs, you know, and growth for people to enjoy places versus the locals who have lived in maybe the last undeveloped area of the island. It's been their beach, maybe not just since they were born, for generations really, and they want to keep the country country. Mm. And it's that conflict. I didn't want it to be a polemical kind of a theme. We see a lot of that. This is really, how do the local people react to that situation when they try to take things into their own hands?
Okay.
And that's what the film's about.
And that's what we're going to talk about. Okay, Zuri, would you please run that film clip?
When's that guy gonna retire? What's he been there, 30 years? Does he think that hotel's gonna blow up if he leaves it? Hey, Ronald! How you doing, brother?
What's up, Dwayne? You guys ready for this?
Oh, I'm ready, Robert. Are you ready?
I said no names, remember? Where's the stuff?
Get you in the truck.
I want to see it, man.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because for all we know, you and dig up your old dog and trot his bones.
You folks need help here?
We're gonna get caught.
Shut up already. Nobody going to jail tonight.
One picked this spot because there was a lava tube on this side. We could have put the bones inside just like the old Hawaiians.
We don't even know if he's Hawaiian.
Hey, he is Hawaiian.
Okay, so they shot him and hit him underneath this wall.
Well, this is a huge find. And as we continue our plans to develop the area, the owners have asked me to ignore...
No. How are you gonna ignore this, huh?
The deed is done. It was easy to get in there before, but now it's damn near impossible.
You know what? We wouldn't piss off some kupuna, and we gotta make it right.
If you want to make it right, let's go tell the truth.
Truth? What truth?
Thanks. So we were just talking about there's a different art to putting together the trailer. Do you normally work on the trailer yourself?
You know, our editor, Jay Evans, is probably the top commercial editor in town and has edited a lot of the features and short films that we've done locally. I worked very close with Jay on the movie itself, but when it came to the trailer, I said to him, Jay, this is almost self-promotion. It's almost like selling yourself. I can't do it. I don't have a feeling for what, you know, will interest people in the film. You go ahead and cut it yourself. I said, really? I said, yeah, because he's not, you know, most people don't let an editor work that way. And he should, you know, we talked a little bit about the themes and how we wanted to do it. And he showed me what he did. I think I changed one shot, and we might have changed the wording on a couple of titles that were in the trailer. There weren't any in this clip here. And that became the trailer.
That was about it.
Yeah.
I can understand as a play director myself, some things become very precious to you.
Yes.
And some things speak volumes to you that maybe, you know, you're so deep in the story at
You're
that
absolutely
point.
right. For many years, I used to edit my own materials for short films or commercials that we do, and there are some advantages to that. You know the clips, you know what you're trying to get, but you get caught up in the story behind how things happen. And that is not what the audience sees. You have to come into it from a third-party point of view. You know, the editor has to be the eyes of the audience.
Yeah.
And if it's not working for them, it doesn't matter whether you like it or not.
Well, and you want to tell them what the story is. You want to give them a flavor. We go through this all the time with press shots.
Yeah.
You want to give people a flavor, but it doesn't have to be the verbatim,
No.
the story. You don't want to give too much away.
No, you're exactly
You
right.
want to leave a lot of unanswered questions.
You know, we all hear our voice differently than other people hear it. When you see a picture of yourself, you react to it different than anybody else in the world. You see something different than they do. You know, and that's just how it is.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Except it's your baby.
That's right.
We just have a couple minutes left here, and then we're going to go to our first break. But
Okay.
I want to ask what your first steps were when you chose Dana came to you with the pieces. You looked at them. You
Yeah.
said, "That's the one." And this was quite a while ago.
Yeah, this is almost 15 years ago.
Okay, almost 15 years ago. So what were your first couple of steps? You must have taken a first couple of steps and then a break.
That's right. So first step was, okay, I wanted to do that one. Nobody else wanted to do it because of the production problems. Probably because of the production problems involved. And Dana said, okay, you can have that. She said, first thing out of her mouth was, who do you see as your lead actors? And the first thing out of my mouth, first thing that came to mind was in the character of Ronald, I saw Robert Kekala. The movie is really about two different Hawaiian men. They have their friends, Japanese, Hale, whatever, but it's the two men and how they have different reactions to what's going on. So one of them is a big Hawaiian guy, a lot smarter than people give him credit for. And once you get him going down a certain path, you're not going to stop him. And I saw Robert Kekala doing that. He was in a series at the time called Birds of Paradise. I don't know if you remember that show. He was very good. The guy can really act. And so I said to Dana, I said, who do you see in the other lead? And she says, well, what about Keali'i Raichel? And I said, really? Has he ever acted? And she said, no, but he can sure perform. And I said, oh my gosh, if we get the two of them, the contrast between the two of them would be terrific, because Keali'i's character plays a very different type of person. He's a guy, it's his idea initially, but he has all these misgivings about it, about the ramifications of what they just did.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna take the first break. We're gonna come right back there.
Okay.
To cast someone who'd never performed like that before, that took some cojones, sir. I must say, it panned out. But
Yeah, it did.
we're gonna take a quick break. This is Center Stage on the ThinkTech Hawaii digital series. We'll be right back.
Oh my goodness gracious, are you in luck? You know what? The hurricane blew away the biggest storytelling event in the state, and we rescheduled it. The Department of Parks and Recreation announces the 26th annual Talk Story Festival, the biggest celebration that you've ever seen. Now hold on to your hat. After Halloween, the next weekend on November 7th and 8th. That's what? You're right, 7th and 8th, from 6 to 9 o'clock, both nights, free. Spooky stories on Friday night. The best storytellers, we're bringing them in from the Big Island and from Maui. Oh my goodness, don't come alone. And on Saturday, it's beyond us. 8 of us are coming together and passing the story of Pele and Hi'iaka, the biggest epic tale the Hawaiians have yet produced in print. We're going to put it on our tongues and spit it out. Here's a word to the wise. Smart birds who love stories go down to McCoy Pavilion November 7th and 8th for story time. 6 to 9, absolutely free. Brought to you by your Parks Department. Can you tell? I'm really excited. I'm really excited.
Hi, we're back and we're live. This is Center Stage on the ThinkTech Hawaii Digital Series. I am your host, Donna Blanchard, proud Managing Director of Kumukukui Theater. We are coming to you live from Pioneer Plaza in the heart of downtown Honolulu, very near Kumukukui Theater. I'm talking with Dave Rosen, who is the director of the film The Fishing Club, which will premiere at HIFF this weekend, actually. Okay, so let's go back to exactly where we were. You said you wanted Robert, this actor, and Kali'i, a performer who is not an actor, but they, and this is interesting for me to hear. As a theater director, I would never, ever, ever do what you did. You took a big chance.
And they have a lot of lines in there. You know, the reason I took a chance on Kali'i is because he is such a good performer on stage. But he's not only a singer, he's a kumuhula, and a dancer. And what I've found working with dancers over the years is, a choreographer explained this to me. Dancers are rehearsers. Nobody, Fred Astaire's not going to get a dance right the first time, but they'll rehearse and rehearse and rehearse, and then when it's time for performance, then you'll see it.
Okay. Well, and they are very aware of the physical manifestation of what's going on in the story, what's going on in their head.
Yeah. I mean, we had no idea whether Kali'i would do it or not. We managed to get in touch with him, and he was actually very interested in the story. But since the story deals with Iwi, Hawaiian bones, he was very concerned that the sections when he's dealing with that directly, and he has a very important monologue, in the story dealing with that section be right. And after some talking, he was kind of convinced that we were going to go about it the right way. In fact, that particular monologue, he wanted to rewrite a bit, which he did. And we weren't exactly sure what he was going to do until he actually performed it.
Oh.
So,
and did you have the writer? I'm sorry, I forgot her name.
Kathy Tarleton.
Kathy, was she was available to approve that, and how did she feel
in general, yes, she was fine with Kali'i doing that.
Okay.
I mean, because what we did a lot, and Kathy was fine with this. One of the things stylistically we wanted to do is put the script into everybody's own words, what was comfortable for them. Because there's a certain amount of pidgin, a certain amount of Hawaii accent going on, and we all hear it in different shows, and when it's wrong, it just sounds terrible.
Unnerving.
It's either not enough or people push it too hard. So what we did is the actors knew their lines, and they were going to improvise within the theme of what they're doing, okay? So we would work on that in rehearsals, and they would work on that among themselves. And then once we started to film, once you got the wording in a way that fit your character, you have to copy it each and every take as we do multiple angles and multiple takes.
Yeah.
So, that's a little bit difficult. So what we did with Kali'i, he was very good at that, by the way, but Kali'i is surrounded by some very professional actors. You probably know them, by name or by sight, who knew what they were doing and were very good at it. So Kali'i had experienced people he could interact with. And Robert is just a natural actor. He took those words, he made them his own, and I think you see that in the film. I think the dialogue feels very natural.
Oh, it does. And you believe them.
Yeah, and you see things like, you see them step on each other's lines. Sometimes there's two conversations going on at the same time. One person will cut the other off. You can't write a script like that, but that's how people really talk, and that's what we were aiming at.
I appreciated that. Actually, that is one of the things that I commented on in the car on the way home.
Oh, really?
Yes, so I said, people don't wait for another person to finish their sentence. I try to do it here, but Normally, it's very, we just don't do that. We don't communicate that way. So I thought you did a nice job with that overlap.
Thanks. And it's hard, not just in plays, but in movies, because your script can't possibly be written that way. Scripts are written linearly down the page.
Yeah.
And the actors have to take it and make it their own.
Yeah. So you had them, and such a luxury as an actor to be able to improvise, and that is actually a tool for memorization that I like to use as an actor and a director. To you understand the synopsis and motivation and your reactions, and then just say the feel of the lines, and that's a step toward actual memorization. Of course, in theater, our goal always is to memorize something verbatim.
Yeah.
But what it sounded like happened with you, you let them improvise, and then they turned that into a script that they had to.
Yeah. And the script grew that way, because in the short story can concentrate on one person at a time, their thoughts or whatever. Or you don't hear people's thoughts on screen unless you're doing some sort of voiceover narration. And when somebody's talking, we've got this ensemble cast with 6 people. They're not standing there doing nothing. What do they do? And really, as we got into it, we found that, maybe some of the written lines aren't exactly correct. That's not how the character would react in the situation. So we had to try to figure out, okay, what would your character do in this situation? Especially for Kaylee and Robert, who are these people? And how would they really react in this situation? And so we changed, some of the lines so that it made sense.
Yeah. Now let's go back just a little bit. You and Dana talked about these are the actors that you'd like to have.
Yeah.
I jumped, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then what happened? Where did that 15-year gap come in?
So Dana produced the other 3 shows as part of her Tradewind series. We went looking at some locations, had trouble finding the locations that we wanted to shoot. Put a budget to it, and it was more money than she had for her other shows. Given the fact that the locations were difficult, the budgets were difficult, it just didn't come around for the shooting. So, we go on with our careers. I do mostly TV commercials and documentaries and so forth. Dana has produced a lot of independent projects as well as some commercials. Eventually, she moved out of town. Just as we started going, I think we can pull this off. There's maybe some locations that we can work on here that'll make it work. And we found a little extra funding through Claire Tong, our other executive producer, helped, find some other money to help make up the difference between what we had budgeted and what it was really going to cost.
Okay.
And we decided to go for it. A week before the shooting, we still didn't have our main location locked down. The location by a beach where the Hawaiian rock wall was, we couldn't secure the locations. There were public beaches that we weren't really allowed to go into. There's a beach out by Sandy Beach, just under Makapu'u. There's no structures there. It was excluded during the Save Sandy Beach campaign, but you can't take vehicles down there. And that includes even film crews. Covello Bay really couldn't work there either. There were, because of the nature of the script, it seemed like it was anti-development, which it really isn't. Some of the characters are anti-development. A whole lot of places wouldn't let us film there. The stores along the Windward Coast, there are a lot of great little stores that look like they could be in, back roads, Big Island.
Yeah.
Didn't want us there.
Because they had asked, what's the film about?
Yep, and we would tell them.
They made, you gotta give it to them for wanting to do that. However, it doesn't, I don't think the film comes off on one side or the other.
No, it comes out and the characters fall on one side or
Right.
another.
Yeah.
You know, but we try to stay on that edge and let the audience make up their own minds.
It's more educational. We did a show like this at Kumukuhui Theater a couple years ago, Kamau'ae, which dealt with a family that half of the family was happy to get the jobs that came from the development, and the other half didn't want that to happen. And I think it's really important. It's an important place for art to share the process that people are going through, share that piece of our humanity, and how do you solve this problem? How are we going to get through it? You have to know what the different sides are before you can do that.
That's exactly right. And then we found where we ended up shooting, we ended up finding ourselves in a very real situation. We ended up shooting at Covello Bay, you know, which is part of Turtle Bay Resort. Now, way back when we first started looking, that ownership at Turtle Bay Resort, we approached them and they didn't want us there. And it was understandable. We were going to have demonstrators on the property and so forth. The new ownership there that was in negotiation with the state for turning it, you know, into a preserve, which it is now, was very interested in that. They were open to it, which shocked us. And that's where we ended up shooting, and they were right in their negotiations, you know, with the state at the time, and we were able to, you know, see, okay, now you've got this development group that's interested in looking at the old Hawaiian perspectives of the land, the various ahupua'a, and, you know, what can be developed and what can't. And, you know, there was a governor who was interested in pushing it, and there were activists on the North Shore who were interested in listening to both sides. And we were there while all that
You
was
were
happening.
filming while all of that was going
Yeah.
on. That's almost spiritual,
It was-
that the timing worked out. Okay, we're going to take another break real quick, and when we come back, I'd like to talk with you a little bit more about your background before you got the script
Okay.
from Dana, and then we've got some shots that we're going to show from the actual filming, which will be fun to look at. We're going to take a short break. I'm Donna Blanchard. This is Center Stage on the ThinkTech Hawaii digital series. Right back.
Aloha, my name is Josh Green. I host a show called Healthcare in Hawaii here on ThinkTech. We get together once a week or sometimes twice a month, depends. When we're busy, we get together less often, but we love to see you here to talk about the preeminent healthcare issues in our state. Our programs vary very widely. We talk about economics, we talk about healthcare, we talk about social issues on this program. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, we're back. This is Center Stage on the ThinkTech Hawaii digital series. I am Donna Blanchard, proud managing director of Kumukuhui Theater, and I'm talking with Dave Rosen, the director of the Fishing Club. I almost forgot the name of the film. Because I was just thinking, I want to make sure that we talk about when your screenings are. Let's say it at the top of this segment, and then we'll say it before we go out, too. You have 2 screenings, Sunday, November 2nd at 1:45 at Regal Dole, and then at 18 IMAX, and Friday, November 7th at 8 p.m. at Consolidated Theaters at Coca Marina Shopping Center.
Yeah, basically this Sunday afternoon at the Dole Cannery Theaters, and Friday night out in Hawaii Kai.
And then Friday night out in Hawaii Kai. Okay, cool. Now, let's go. Tell me a little bit about your trajectory when you were in school. When you were in high school, were you interested in film?
No, I thought I was going to be a nuclear scientist.
Really? Well,
Really.
you missed that boat.
I really missed that boat. I really missed that boat. And
You were a fan of math and science.
yeah, and I remember going into, I went to an engineering school when I first went to college. Didn't finish at an engineering school. But I remember we came into one of these big study halls, and there had been a film appreciation class in there before. And somebody left on one of the seats, the professor had done an analysis of Alfred Hitchcock's Notorious, and went through it shot by shot and showed how he was kind of manipulating the audience through his selection of shots. And I went, wow, isn't that interesting? So, cut ahead a year and a half, and I took a film appreciation class. And that professor had been associated with a lot of the great British directors like David Lean and Carol Reed, and he gave a class on how film directors and editors went about manipulating audiences' perceptions and how they think during a movie and so forth. When we got to the end of the class, I'm a senior by then, we had a choice of doing a term paper or a film. And I was so sick to death of doing term papers that I bought a Super 8 camera and some Super 8 editing equipment and made a little movie. And a funny thing happened on the way to the movie. The harder I worked at it, the more I liked it. And I said right there and then, that's going to be it.
Oh, that was it. One of those times when you just lose time while
Yep,
you're working on it.
absolutely. Oh, yeah, you lose a lot of time while you're working.
I understand that. It sounds foreign to me, the concept of how am I going to manipulate the audience. In my life in theater, I think of how am I going to be true to this written word that I'm working on. But so I'm not a film director at heart. It takes some engineering and some mathematics to do what you do well. It
does. Theater is very different because in theater, you've got a live audience that you can play off of. You don't have that. You don't get to see your live audience till in a feature film a year and a half later. You know, you have to think about what's going on and what are they going to be thinking about.
The theorem behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you came out of that, you know, that's it. This is what I'm going to do, and then what?
Then for a couple of years, it was hard to get work. You know, I would get, oh, here, come shoot this football game for us, blah, blah, blah. So I taught for a couple of years, and then finally got a job making industrial films. Not creative, but I was, you know, with cameras every day and with, you know, high-end editing equipment.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of money in industrial films.
And going through a lot of the same procedures that you do to make any kind of a movie. And really learn the business. From there, at the same time I was making my own little film, which got me into a giant financial hole. Even though it wasn't that much money, to me it was a lot of money at the time. So I made this little film in 1979, 1980. It didn't make any money, but in the audience there were a couple people in the advertising business who saw it and offered me a job as a director to come work for them. I went, okay, I can do that. So I started making commercials, which is, you know, another way, you know, that's where there's some money in the business, really.
Well, you're telling a story,
Yep.
and you're figuring out how to manipulate your audience really fast. You
Yep.
gotta
You
move
got 30
them.
seconds.
Yeah. So that's got to be excellent preparation to get into a
It's very good.
short film.
It's very good. And then you almost have to flip out of it from that heavy-duty manipulation, you know, every second. You can't do that when you've got a longer piece. You've got to let things grow, you know, and the audience kind of come along slowly. And one of the things we really tried to do in this film, not only thematically, not telling the audience which side to come down on, we're not telling them what to think. Through a lot of the film, a lot of the stuff goes unsaid, and I think there are a lot of thoughts going on in people's minds that we're not forcing them to have. The first 2 minutes of the movie, I don't know if you noticed, have no dialogue. You don't see that often.
Yeah.
Not
I
only
didn't think about that.
Yeah, there's no dialogue, and it's so dark you can hardly see what's going on. But you do see enough,
Yeah.
so that you're putting your own thoughts and ideas. You're projecting them.
Yeah, you're processing that exposition.
Yeah.
So, Zuri, we've got some photos in there. If you could show these. These are from the actual production.
Yeah.
You've got, there we go.
There's some-
There's your actors.
Yep.
Kelly E. and Robert.
Yep.
And so once was there any hesitation? No, was there any hesitation on Robert's part for working with Kelly?
None at all. You know, Robert was excited to do the piece. And when we did the first rehearsal, I could tell right away he was just perfect for the piece. Now, he has the key monologue in the whole film. The theme to the whole film is found in his monologue, which happens in the middle of the movie. You know, like Keali'i, we never really saw what he was going to do with that monologue in rehearsals. And we did a series of rehearsals with a couple with Robert and Keali'i, a couple with full cast. Now, that's not much compared to theater, but it's a lot compared to what we usually get.
Oh, yeah.
And I think this scene for Robert was kind of like what a crying scene would be. You know, sometimes when you have an actor cry, you don't want them to do it until they really do it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
This scene was so emotional. Robert never really let it go until he actually performed it. And I think we might have done 3 takes because we didn't know exactly how he was going to do it. We didn't get the camera timing right on the first take.
Oh.
Okay? And he was able to give us the intensity on the second take. And on the third take, Keali'i started inserting these little jabs in that just got Robert all worked up.
Oh, wow.
And kind of put it over the top to where we wanted it to be, and that's what's in the film.
Awesome. Let's take a look at the second image. That's just on the set. Didn't you? You had some rain in this film. You had a lot of trouble getting Mother Nature to work with you just right?
Well, you know, the funny thing is, as part of the film, there's a huge rainstorm that happens as part of the plot. We wanted to film in that rainstorm. We didn't want to film till, you know, we had most of the film cut, which was a few months ago. Well, believe it or not, in the last few months, until the recent hurricane that went by, there was not one sustained rainstorm. We kept going out.
This time of year in Hawaii.
Well, I mean, think about what was the hurricane that hit the Big Island a few months ago, and hit the Big Island and split. We had 2 camera crews out. Oahu didn't get one drop of rain that day.
It all fell elsewhere.
Yeah, it hit the Big Island hard and then went on either side of us.
What have you got, what's photo number 3 that you've got there? Sorry. I think there's one. Oh, okay.
Okay, so here's a key scene. This is the group. They're at a rock wall. This is the Hawaiian rock wall. And they're dealing with Evian. Their plot starts going awry when they can't do what they wanted to do. And so they're having this discussion about what to do with the Evie as they're standing around the rock wall here.
Yeah. That's kind of intense. It's intense, but you know what kind of made me laugh? Oh, there's Dana.
Yeah, that's the first day of shooting at Covello Bay. And, you know, it was just a huge day. We had all these demonstrators around. We had construction equipment, people playing police officers, archaeologists, archaeology students. You know, and it's like, how are we going to do this? And that day there was rain coming in, and we really needed to get a beauty shot at Covello Bay. How do we get things through enough so we can get out to Covello Bay in time?
Yeah. But what a way to start.
Yeah.
And here, this is more like it. This is everyone relaxing while they're... I loved it that Robert's character, they all get together to do something very, very important, and he pulls a beer out of the back of the truck.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's a sort of realism.
What you're seeing here, one of the great things is, while we would be setting up one scene, the actors, since they're finding their improv lines, I'd see them off in the distance, you know, working their lines and figuring out what they were going to say so that they were prepared when we came in front of camera. Oh,
wow. Nice. That nice exercise for them.
Yeah, it was great.
What would you do differently if you were going to do this again?
Production, I'll tell you, in terms of final results, not much. There were some things at Covello Bay that we could have gotten better. We had a beautiful set of the petroglyph scene, field scene. We could have gotten better. But it was about to rain, and I really needed that final scene at the bay itself in beautiful light. If I had it to do over again, I would have come back and shot those petroglyphs even in the rain and cut them in differently. We didn't get that as well as we could have. Other than that, everything else was pretty much as it should have been or better than it should have been,
Oh.
I thought.
Well, that's a wonderful thing to be able to
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
There's so much of your job is decision making, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
you want everything to be one way, but this is what's happening. It's not raining when it's supposed to, or it is raining now and everything looks a little bit different.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool that you wouldn't change it. What are you working on now?
Well, right now, I mean, we're back to our commercial world. We just finished, in fact, a couple of projects for the Sex Abuse Treatment Center right across the street from us. Actually, that's it's kind of, you know, work that's important to do, and we've kind of taken it on as our cause. And so those two pieces are finished, and they're going to be released soon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What commercials have you done that we'd recognize?
Geez, there's all kinds of stuff. I've done most of the commercials for the Hawaii Pacific Health Hospitals, worked for various banks and airlines, and they're
okay.
just all
So
over
we've
the
seen
place.
a lot of
Yeah,
your work.
yeah.
And, I mean, do you still love that? Are you inspired to do that? Or
We
is
try to be. You know, I remember this interview from the late 60s with Orson Welles. He was on the Dick Cavett show, and he says, you know, what are you inspired by, or what are you not inspired by? Oh, no, I remember. What the question was, so many people copy your work. What do you think of that? He says, oh, well, that's just flattery. He said, but the most important thing to me is never to copy myself. So we try to come up with, you know, new things as best we can. And interestingly enough, very few projects ask us to repeat something from the past.
Oh.
You know, there's something new to be learned in every job that we do, really.
Yeah. So there's still a lot of innovation going on in commercial production?
I think so. I think it kind of comes and goes. You know, when personally what I've seen is when the economy is down, nobody wants to take a chance, and I find this stuff on TV kind of boring, and you know, the scripts that you get to work on, or maybe they're not the most interesting in the world. When they're a little bit better, when the economy is a little bit better, people are, you know, more willing to take chances.
Yeah. I have to say, this is one of my stories about advertising that I love. In 2010, when the economy was a little rough, I remember looking in a magazine and seeing an ad for Tide detergent, and it used the word freaking. And I thought that was the first time I've ever seen. And it made me notice it. I still remember it. I remember what the product was, and I remember that they took that risk.
Yeah.
They were the first ones who put it out there in the mainstream, you know, before Webster made it a word. Okay, so we've got to wrap up, and I do need to let you know that the Friday screening on November 7th that we talked about has sold out. It hasn't just sold out while we were talking, but I got the news about it. So if you're going to that one, lucky you. If not, there are still tickets available for the screening on Sunday, November 2nd. It's at 1:45 p.m. at the Regal Dole Cannery Stadium 18 and IMAX, so you can still get that. I want to say thank you very much to you, Dave Rosen. I really enjoyed the conversation. I'm so happy that I got a chance to see the film and talk about it and tell other people about it.
Well, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
You know, I've been to your shows on the audience side. It's nice to meet you.
Kuhua shows?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for that little plug.
Sure.
I would like to thank Zuri Bender, who is in my ear. I would like to thank Sachi Slomov, who is our stage manager, and our communications director, Chrissy Goffigan, and Jay Fidel, who somehow manages to put it all together. Come back next week and see us, where we will have Dana Hankins, who's the producer behind this film and the Graham Salisbury novel to film Under the Blood Red Sun. We'll see you next